Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to today's episode of Modesty's Mortgage Masterclass. This is session number 18. I remain your man and your host, Ikenna Ume Izudike, the director of Modesty Financial Consultants Limited, based in Luton, United Kingdom. We offer mortgage services, financial advisory services, investment advisory, financial planning, and financial consulting. Okay, so today in session 18 of our Modesty's Mortgage Masterclass, we're going to be looking at some live case scenarios. Basically giving you a taste of some of the live cases we are dealing with at the moment, or we've dealt with, and how we're handling them and how we dealt them, just to give you a variety of different case scenarios and how lenders view it and what our experiences are in terms of trying to solve those problems. One or two of those might resonate with you. Maybe you're looking to take out a mortgage and you are in that circumstance. It's just to give you an idea of what lenders are looking for and how we are managing to navigate through some of the criteria and helping our clients to achieve their different objectives. You see, so the idea and the reason behind this is just, we've talked a lot about theoretical stuff in the past. So I just wanted to give you a live practical case scenario that's, basically those theoretical things we've been talking about, how have we been applying them, or how have they been, showing up in real life, and how have we been treating them? What is it like in real life to actually get a mortgage problem solved or to attain a mortgage solution? All right, so that's what we're going to be looking at today. But obviously, you know that today, before we go into the main topic, our normal way of doing things is that we'll go through the mortgage market updates, and then after the mortgage market. Oh my God, I've got my tongue twisted this morning. But hey, so after the mortgage market updates, then we can now discuss in full what the main topic for the day is. So, but first of all, I want to say congratulations to all of you that made it into the first day of the 7th month of this year. Yeah, it's been a very turbulent past 3 months, and a lot of people have really felt it. Some are very much in pain and agony, having lost loved ones or dear ones. And to people in that situation, please accept my condolences. I will continue to pray for the soul of the repose. It's not been easy for others in other ways as well. Apart from losing people, some people have lost jobs. Some have lost things that they treasure so much. Some have lost their means of livelihood and earnings, and they have just been finding it very difficult to survive in this coronavirus season. And to people who find themselves in that situation, I'm just going to encourage you to say, please hang in there and seek help if you need one. Don't go through it alone. Speak out, talk to people. Mental health is real, and before you know it, you find yourself down the drain and down the alleyway of mental health, and you completely lose it. So please speak out and let people help you where they can. Okay, there are various support groups, especially in the UK here, that look after people who find themselves in that situation. Okay, so please look around you and reach out for help. All right, guys, so today what we're going to be talking about first of all in our markets update is news that's been making rounds since yesterday, or earlier this week, about the big announcement or the big speech that the the Prime Minister was going to make about housing and the plans of the government for housing. So the news there is that the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is planning the biggest planning shake-up since World War II. The biggest planning shake-up since World War II. He's saying that he's gonna rejig the whole planning system. When I talk about planning, I mean planning permission. Because here in the UK, for you to build certain things, or for you to engage in certain property construction project, you have to obtain planning permission. So planning permission has been one big thing that has been holding developers down, that has been holding house builders down, because obtaining planning permission, even though it's peculiar to councils, and councils are at liberty to design their own planning criteria and work towards that and work with that, but then the central government has a say in all that. So the government is trying to like completely revolutionize the planning permission system to make it easier for people to build and for builders to get building done. So that now, what's basically does this entail? So the Prime Minister has unveiled his plans, even though details are still trickling in. Details are still very scanty, but I'm going to give you an overall picture, an overview of what that whole plan is all about. Now, he has termed this speech "Build, Build, Build." Okay, so it's all about building, and he's saying that some of these measures will come into force by September of this year, and there will be regulations, and those regulations will make it easier for property developers to turn a wider range of commercial premises into residential properties without planning application. Amazing, isn't it? That there will be a regulation, and once it's a regulation, it means it's a law. That will mean that property developers or builders will find it easier to convert a wider range of commercial premises into residential homes without planning permission. A couple of years ago, that appeared to be very, very unrealistic, and mentioning it at all, nobody would even believe that there will be something like that will even be envisaged. But hey, it's still a plan. Okay, so he said that the regulation will come into place that will take care of this. Now, the idea there is not to make it a requirement any longer for builders to get planning permission, normal planning permission, if they wish to demolish and rebuild a redundant commercial building, a building that has been vacant and redundant for some time, and the developer wants to demolish it and build new homes there. They want to make it possible for the developer to be able to do that without normal planning application. So basically, if there has been an office, a commercial property that has been vacant, redundant, and just been there laying waste for some years, and the developer wants to demolish that structure and build residential homes on it. Before now, the red tape, the protocols, the processes that will be involved before you are even able to get planning permission on that will be enormous. Okay, so the Prime Minister is saying that he's going to bring in regulation that will take care of all that and ensure that all that red tape is removed and builders can quickly demolish and rebuild that, build something else on that structure, or convert that structure into a residential property without normal application. Now, to builders and property developers, this is going to sound like music in their ears. Okay, so now but the Prime Minister is being clear that this is not aimed at reducing the building standards. Now, the building standards will remain the same in the UK, but the only difference is that they will remove the red tapes, the protocols, all the administrative red tapes that have been holding those processes down. So if planning permission alone takes about 3 months to come by before you now start talking about building, it means 3 months is out of the way. You don't need normal planning permission to do that. And then you go ahead and you start building. Saves you time, saves you money, saves you stress. Okay, but the idea is not to reduce the standard of building. The idea is to remove that red tape. So in these new measures that are coming into place, also, the other thing that is also proposed. Hi, Amaka, good afternoon. Thanks for coming on. The other thing that's also been proposed by the government is that property owners will be able to fast track the approval to allow them add additional or extra floors to the already existing building without going through a lot of protocols, subject to neighbor approval. Hi John, good afternoon. Thanks for coming on. So if the neighbors approve, homeowners can actually add an extra floor to the already existing homes without having to go through all the protocols involved in planning. So they will make it a fast-track approval process, make it quicker for that to be approved, as long as your neighbors are happy with that. Now, these things are, the government is also saying that they are trying to reduce pressure on building on greenfield sites by encouraging more building on brownfield sites. Okay? Because a lot of environmental activists are saying that we are fast losing our green fields because of insatiable appetite for building, for profits, and for all that. Hi Joy, good afternoon. Thanks for coming on. So the government said, okay, let us see how we can improve on the structures on the brownfields so that the pressure on the green fields will be reduced. So that's why they've come up with the idea of asking, not requiring planning permission for demolition existing commercial buildings that have been derelict or redundant for some time. So the government also plans to roll out a £12 billion program, which will be contained in the budget. It will be a budget commitment from the government to support the building of about 180,000 affordable homes over the next 8 years. So over the next 8 years, the government is planning to spend about £12 billion to support the building of 180,000 affordable homes here in the UK. Now, part of that scheme would include a pilot scheme, which will what the government called first homes. So there will be a scheme that will allow first-time buyers to get 30% discount on new builds, right? They call it first homes. It's part of the scheme in the pipeline that the government is trying to introduce. So first-time buyers will be able to get properties at 30% discount. Now, there are some areas that have been mapped out by the government that will benefit from some certain funding as well that the governments are going to pump into this same scheme. Now, part of this whole package also includes a £400 million brownfield land fund. Now, these areas, listen very carefully, the Midlands, the Greater Manchester, the West Yorkshire, the Liverpool City region, the north of Tyne and Thames Valley. Now, these areas will benefit from this £400 million brownfield land fund, which will support the building of about 24,000 homes around these areas. I'm going to tell you why I asked you to pay attention to the names I'm mentioning later on, to these names. Now, also in this plan by the government is to help smaller developers. There are different categories of property developers. There are some who are smaller and there are the mega ones. So those smaller property developers, the government is helping them to access finance for new developments. There is a scheme called a developers finance. Yeah, so they want to pump in more money, about £450 million into that fund. It's called the Home Builders Fund, so that small developers can access that fund, and it can support the building of about 7,200 homes as well in that scheme. Okay, so let's look at what all this means, analytically. Now, there is no gainsaying, there is no denial of the fact that the UK is in very acute shortage of affordable homes in the UK. So we need specifics. It's all okay to roll out these big plans and make the big speech and the big the devil is in the detail. So we need specifics on these plans to know exactly how they apply, when they apply, and who will benefit from them, and how the government intends to run them. So more clarity is required to be able to give more details to that clarity will help drive this scheme forward, or will determine how far it will go or how badly it's going to go. Okay, and also one thing that is also lacking is the inadequacy of monitoring. Some of these policies are rolled out, they are not adequately monitored. There should be a strict timetable that should be adhered to by the builders and developers to say, okay, you've got planning permission to build on this particular site. You've got 12 months, within which you must, or 6 months within which you must start work on that site, and you have 24 months within which you must finish it. And if you are happy to engage with us and adhere to this timetable, we're happy to support you by this much money. Incentivize the builders and the developers and monitor that scheme, so that these things are built quickly. Because what's happening is that some developers have a knack of obtaining planning permission, and they just sit on it. They go and obtain planning permission to convert a commercial property to residential property, and then they don't do it. They just sit on the planning permission, maybe waiting for that property for some years to appreciate, and then they might sell it with a planning permission on it, or just basically just using it to boost their asset classes and all that. So there has been that problem of, it's not just about not getting planning permission, but also getting planning permission and doing nothing with it. So for years there has been shortage of homes. Not enough new homes have been built in the UK, and this has been an issue over the years. And every government that comes on during every election, they come up with campaign promises about building homes and building homes and building homes, and nobody ever does anything about it. So it's been, people are getting kind of tired of hearing all those promises. So this is another big speech by Boris Johnson, and we're hoping that that big speech will be matched with action this time, because there's acute shortage of homes, especially new homes. Not enough are being built at the moment in the UK. So the other thing that is very clear on this is that the government has seen that, because of coronavirus, the UK economy has taken a very big hit. So the quickest, the fastest way of getting out of recession after the coronavirus is through property. Building. The property market, the property sector is a very, very critical area in the recovery and the regeneration of the UK economy after this coronavirus. So the government have seen this, and they are willing to, take huge advantage of that by pumping a lot of money into building houses and by creating jobs. So they create jobs, they build houses, and they rejuvenate the economy. Nobody loses. So as long as they keep to their words, it's a fantastic arrangement. So the UK property market will benefit massively from this program and this huge cash injection into the economy if the government follows through, with its words. Now, the implementation of this program really has to be strictly adhered to if there has to be any sign of success on that. Now, the reason I said you should take notes or special attention of the areas I mentioned before, those areas that are going to benefit from government cash injection, like Greater Manchester, Liverpool City region, the Yorkshire, and the Tyne and Tees. So the reason I told you to make note of those areas is if you are a property investor, right? Property investors follow the money. And if you are looking for areas that you want to invest, I've just given you a clue of where the government is intending to spend money. In the next, in the very recent, in a very short while, that's where the money is going to go within a short period of time, say in the next 5 years. So these regions that I've mentioned, if you want to explore property investment opportunities, I would say look at those areas and monitor when the government scheme is kicking off there, and monitor what the government is doing there, because investors follow the money. Because wherever regeneration is happening, there will be activities will increase in that area. Where the government is investing money activities will increase in that area. What will happen to house prices there? House prices, how value of properties there will appreciate. So people who have properties there will enjoy property inflation benefits. And people who are looking to invest means that if you buy properties around there, it won't be difficult to find tenants because people who want to move into that area and live there. If the government is investing in, say, transport links, laying train tracks, construction of new roads leading to connecting more cities and all that, if the government is opening up an area through transport links, what it means that they are giving access to more people to come into that area and for more people to connect from that area to other areas. So property investors who are smart will follow that because that's where money is going to. And as that area is being opened up, more people are coming in there. And as they are coming in, they are looking for places to live. They're looking for properties to buy. So property investors will always follow the money. So go back and, when you are listening back to this, listen to those areas that I mentioned, like the Midlands, the Greater Manchester, the West Yorkshire, the Liverpool City region, the north of Tyne and Tees, that's the Newcastle area. Those areas are going to benefit from the government £450 million building fund to boost, house building in those areas. So this is not like an investment advice from me, but it's just a suggestion. You still go and do your due diligence and make sure that the numbers add up for you in those areas before you go. Don't just say that Ikenna said you should go to Greater Manchester and buy properties, and then you buy the property, it doesn't work out, you come back blaming me. No, I'm just giving you a clue, a tip on one of the things you have to consider. Then, the rest of the decision is for you to make. So that's just a clue I've given to you. Do your due diligence and make sure the investment numbers add up. Okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is there's this report by the housing charity called Shelter. They are warning that new homes will fall by 84,000 this year. There will be 84,000 less new homes built this year. Now, this report came out through Savios. Savios conducted this report on behalf of Shelter, and they released it. And it's alarming, basically, and it just exposes the level of shortage of new homes that, I mentioned it before, that there is acute shortage of homes, especially new homes in the UK. And this report by Shelter has also reinforced that. So basically, they are saying that there is acute shortage and the government needs to act as quickly as possible to plug that gap. And they are asking the government to bring forward that £12 billion program that they wanted to spend that money over 5 years. They should bring it forward and spend that money actually over a 2-year period, because that would mean massive cash injection into the property sector, into building. So it means building more houses, creating more jobs, and rejigging the economy. So they want the government to bring that program forward because of the acuteness of the problem. For example, they said there will be about 4,300 rental homes, delivered this year. That's affordable rental homes, the official one that is declared by the government. There will be like there could be as little as 4,300 affordable rental homes. 4,300. And if that happens, it means that this will be the year that the least amount of social housing has been built since the World War II. It means since the World War II, there has been no year that lesser amounts of social housing has been built than this year. If that happens, that's to tell you the extent of the problem and how acute that problem is. And that will represent 30% drop in the number of social housing that was built in a year, if it turns out to be just about 4,300 in this year. So what actually is the reason for this acute shortage? This time around, we're in an unprecedented period with the coronavirus and all that. The reason, according to Savios and their research, is first of all the social distancing due to coronavirus hasn't helped matters. Because in building, if they have to observe social distancing rule, the speed of building will be slower. The speed of progress of work will be slower, meaning that not enough people will be available to build. And therefore, they won't build as many as they're supposed to build in a year. Secondly, as the coronavirus lingers on, the longer it lingers, the more harmful it is to the economy and the more jobs are lost. And if people do not have confidence in their future earnings, they will not have confidence in buying properties either. So it will affect the demand for properties. And if demand for properties are affected, there won't be enough building, done. Because if not too many people are interested in buying your house, why are you building them? So those are the two key things that they have identified that could be responsible for the shortage that is being experienced or that will be experienced this year. And they are saying that the solution to that is for the government to bring that £12 billion program forward and spend that money as quickly as possible. Because the problem is going to be the problem, if it's created, is going to be lengthy, but the time window within which they have to solve it is very, very short. So they're asking the government to compress it into a 2-year program and fast track it and get it done. Now, just to give you a hint of how this shortage is really, really acute in its nature. If actually it is true, or it turns out to be true, that 4,300 homes could be the only amount of social homes that will be built for rent this year. In Wakefield alone, according to Shelter, there are more than 4,000 people on the waiting list, on the social housing waiting list, in Wakefield alone. So they just used one area to give you an example. So that means that even if over 4,000 properties are built, it won't even take care of the waiting list in one location of the UK alone. Talk more of the national outlook. So nationally, there are over 1 million households that are on the social housing waiting list. So if recession kicks in, more people will join that waiting list. So that means the problem that the UK government have got to deal with is very self-evident. So if there is anything that the pandemic has shown, it is that safe home is very fundamental, and not too many people have got that safe home, which is why this housing charity Shelter is calling for the government to do something and do it fast. Okay, and it's something that everybody who's in the property industry has been calling out for every time. And then you keep asking, why are we not doing it? Why are we not doing it? The government knows what to do. They come up with all the bold plans, but execution, implementation is the key thing that is lacking. Okay, so that is the outlook in terms of the building scorecard and building houses. So enough of that. We've talked about that, and I hope you now have an idea. You now have a hint of what kind of problem that we're facing here in the UK when it comes to housing. But the government is saying we're doing something about it. We are watching and we are waiting. Now let's go to what the main topic for today, which is discussing some of the live case scenarios that we are dealing with or we have dealt with, just to tell you what exactly they look like and to put you, for you to have an idea of what we do, how we do it, and how we find solution. So the first live case scenario I want to talk to you about today is the case of a client of mine, a very unique, special client of mine. I have a very good relationship with him. Just like all my clients, I very much focus on relationship building. I want to make sure that I'm talking to a client who I'm treating like a friend and like a family, and that's why I get on and along a lot with a lot of my clients, because I don't know whether it's a weakness on my side, but I tend to take things very personal. If a client comes to me with a mortgage issue and they want to achieve this, and I always assume that I'm the one who's looking for that mortgage. And then I put myself under enormous pressure to find a solution to try and solve this problem. So I don't know whether it's a weakness or a strength on my own side, but I'm going to find out anyway. But one thing I know is that that's the way I attack every mortgage problem. So this peculiar client of mine came to me and he said, I want to remortgage my property and I want to take out equity from that property. But I don't live in that property anymore, but my partner and children live in that property. I live with my parents now, and I live at my parents' place. And I haven't lived at that property for some time now, but I have, my partner and my children who live there. But I own the property, so I want to remortgage this property. So we've been trying to find a solution to this particular client's situation. So the peculiarity there is that he doesn't live in the property. He has not lived in property for some time, but he owns the property. So from speaking to lenders and trying to find a solution to it, I found that some lenders are not comfortable with, lending to someone who doesn't live in that property currently. So it's a complete no from those lenders. You have to be residing in the property for them to lend, against that property, even though you own the property. I found it strange, basically, but that's their policy, and they have a reason for their policy. Then there are other lenders who are happy to lend because that to them is like a second home. So any lender who is happy to lend to somebody who wants to buy a second home, they can as well treat that home as a second home and lend against it. But in talking about second homes, it's not straightforward like that. Because if you own a home and you want to buy a second home, your income has to be able to justify that you can take care of the mortgages for both homes, the first one and the second. So they're going to take into consideration your commitment to the mortgage of the first home before they approve the mortgage for the second home, just to make sure they have enough income to take care of that, including your other committed expenses. Okay? But in this case, this client doesn't own this home he's living in now. It's a parent's home. So there is no mortgage commitment on that. So the focus will now be on that mortgage commitment on the property that he's looking to remortgage. Okay? And then looking at his current mortgage arrangements, found out that it could have been better, to be honest with you. He took out the mortgage in those days when there wasn't that much regulation around mortgages, when they were dishing out interest-only mortgages to people who wanted to buy residential properties, and they were just paying interest on it, and the capital remained unpaid. Okay, so it was one of those mortgages. There are lots of them now in the UK, and those people are stuck now because they are owing a lot of money. And all through the years, they've just been paying interest, and the capital has not been reducing. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. We'll talk about it on another time. But in this case, this client is looking to remortgage on that property. So the challenges we are coming up against is what I'm just pointing out to you, just to let you know how lenders view these things and how we are trying to find a solution to that. So the solution, the path that we have designed for this particular mortgage now is basically, we now know that we've got to look for a lender who is happy to treat it as a second home, or who is happy to treat it as a home, and that second one has to be for his dependents. So you can actually buy a property and not live in it, as long as your dependents are living in it. Maybe you are buying it for your dependents, for wife and children to live in, but you do not live in that property, or for people who are depending on you to live in that property while you don't live in it. Lenders can lend, for that purpose as well. So in this case, there are lenders who are happy to look at it from that angle. Then we also have to find lenders who are happy to lend to people who are self-employed. Okay? Because my client who is self-employed, some lenders have their own criteria of how they assess the affordability of self-employed individuals. They've got to look at your SA 302 to see what income you have declared. They've got to look at your tax year overviews. They will look at your business bank statements. They will look at your financial accounts if you're a limited company. And some lenders are happy to take the net profits on your account, which is prepared by a chartered accountant or a qualified accountant. The net profit, if you're a 100% shareholder in that in that company, they're happy to use the net profit as your income because all the net profits belong to you. Some other lenders are not happy to take net profits alone. They just want to take your own dividends and your remuneration. So if you're the sole director, or if you're a director of that company, they are saying that whatever you pay yourself as salary from that company is what they will take as your income plus the dividends that you have taken from there. So if there is a combination of both, they will add them both. If you take dividend and salary, they will add them both, and that will become the basis of deciding affordability. While some will say, okay, we're happy with your net profit, we're just going to take the net profit, and then we're going to use the net profit figure to assess affordability in this case. So we are having to look for a lender who is happy to also consider the net profit figure, for this client who is also self-employed. He's got salary, he's got dividends, he's got net profits. Yeah, but if the salary plus dividend figures are not enough to justify affordability, then we've got to look for a lender who is happy to take net profits only. So you can see the different boxes that we need to tick and the different variables that needs to be filled before we arrive at a lender as a choice, before we make that recommendation. So we might find a lender who is happy to lend against second home for dependents. Fine, that ticks one box. But then, hang on a minute, does this lender accept net profit as means of affordability? If the answer is no, that lender is ruled out. If the lender, okay, you assume the lender now says, okay, I can accept net profits as this, they will now come down to coronavirus. This person is self-employed. What does he do? Has this person's business been trading throughout the coronavirus period? And if the answer is no, that it's one of those businesses that were shut by the government, then they will not lend. Because as far as they are concerned, that account, even though the figures add up in the accounts and the documents, but currently, how are we sure that his financial situation remains the same because of the coronavirus? So it's a lot more complicated than just coming to a mortgage broker and say, hey, I want to remortgage my property. This is my situation. This is what I want done. So which is why I wanted to come and address some of these things, just to give you a hint, a taste of what the mortgage broker's world is like. So when a mortgage broker asks you to pay a certain amount of money for the services they are rendering to you, this is what they have to do, especially if the case has got lots of prongs and lots of things that you need to plug in before they fit. One lender might accept this condition, but they will not accept this condition. Another lender will accept this condition, but they will not accept this condition. And then you have to look at the credit report as well to make sure that it also matches what the lender wants. If that person's credit report is good enough, or are you on the electoral register? So my client wasn't on the electoral roll, and I said to him, get yourself on the electoral roll. And then I had a client who wasn't on the electoral roll, and my advice, I said, get on the electoral roll register. The moment he registered on electoral roll, their credit record hit near excellence. It jumped significantly just because they put themselves on the electoral roll, and it had a tremendous effect on the positive side of their credit record. These are the things that your mortgage broker can help you do. So you might be sitting on a credit record that could be better, and then you bring it to the mortgage broker. I look at it and I say, you're not on the electoral roll, and it's affecting your credit report. Get on the electoral roll. The moment the credit reference agencies update their records, go back and check your your credit reports. It's jumped up. Okay, so we do these things because, you know, we have the passion to do them. And every mortgage broker is different, to be honest with you. But I am one of those mortgage brokers who, you know, I find it difficult to say no to every case until I have done everything possible to make that case work before I can say, sorry, I can't place this case. Okay? So it's those things that we ask you to pay for. When we say pay your broker well, pay them well because they are worth their money. Okay, so folks, that's the much that time will permit us today. And next week, I'm going to continue as I discuss more live case scenarios with you to give you an indication of what, you know, it looks like placing different cases and in different scenarios and what you need to know. I hope this has been useful enough to you, and if it has, please feel free to, you know, show us some love. Tell us how helpful it's been to you. You can comment on this platform. You can give us a thumbs up. You can, you know, like this video. You can share it even to people that you feel, you know, will also benefit from that. We're more than grateful for you if you do that. And then rush onto YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ikenna Umezudike. Search it out on YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel. There are loads of stuff on there as well for you to get your teeth deep into. Okay, so thank you very much for being here today, and thank you very much for being part of this. God bless you, and I'll see you guys again next week. Take care, goodbye, and have a lovely month.